All right, let's just dive right into this. If you've been feeling, a little anxiety lately about generative AI and what it actually means for the future of your work, yeah, you are absolutely not alone. We're looking at a massive paradigm shift right now in how we function, but more importantly, in how we actually future-proof our careers. I mean, think about it. Just a few years ago, being the absolute smartest person in the room, the one who could write the cleanest code or instantly recall some obscure market research, that made you indispensable. That hard skill was basically your armor. But suddenly, we're watching the rapid commoditization of those exact skills, and it's forcing everyone, literally everyone, from junior analysts to seasoned executives, to ask a pretty terrifying question. If a machine can do my core tasks faster and cheaper, what exactly is my value? Well, in today's explainer, we're going to unpack exactly how you can position yourself for success in this crazy new landscape. And we'll do it by relying on some really fascinating insights into the structural economics of what AI can and cannot do.
Now, you already know the basics of what's happening out there. We really don't need to sit here and marvel at the fact that a machine can summarize a 100-page research paper, or generate a full business plan, or write a super complex Python script in 3 seconds. What we actually need to talk about is the economic implication of all this. We're talking about the zero marginal cost of intelligence. We are entering an era where the barrier to entry for generating good enough knowledge has essentially dropped to zero overnight. Look at the legal industry, for example. Historically, a massive chunk of a junior corporate lawyer's job was simply sifting through thousands of documents during discovery, right? A task that required high intelligence and billed out at hundreds of dollars an hour. Today, an AI model does that instantly at almost zero cost. The sheer speed and accessibility are just staggering. And what this tells us is that basic knowledge and raw intelligence by themselves are no longer the ultimate competitive advantages they once were. The playing field for generating baseline information hasn't just been leveled, it's been completely paved over by the machine.
But there is one thing it still cannot generate. So the crucial point is that while the machine can brilliantly simulate intelligence, it fundamentally cannot manufacture the human element. It really comes down to a very simple concept: skin in the game. You see, an algorithm doesn't hold risk. It doesn't lose sleep over a bad strategic decision, and it doesn't have a reputation to ruin if a product launch totally fails. It can simulate empathy in a customer service chat, sure, but it cannot actually take responsibility for a failure. In the professional world, true value isn't just about coming up with the right answer. It's about standing behind that answer when millions of dollars or even people's livelihoods are on the line.
And that brings us to credibility. This is the ungeneratable asset. Credibility is definitely not a prompt you can just engineer in 5 seconds. It's earned through years of real, lived experience and a solid foundation of consistent results. Most importantly, it's forged through making ethical decisions when things get genuinely tough. Think about a project manager who discovers a critical flaw just days before a major software release. An LLM might generate a completely flawless PR apology template, but it takes a human being with real credibility to walk right into the CEO's office, look them in the eye, and make the brutal, highly costly call to delay the launch just to protect the user. That kind of trust, built through friction and shared stakes with other people, it just cannot be faked. Let me pause for a second and ask you directly. How are you actively cultivating these specific, irreducible human elements in your own day-to-day life? Because in this new economy, this right here, this is your ultimate professional moat.
Historically, the single most valuable question in the professional world was simply, what do you know? You were evaluated, hired, and promoted based on the proprietary information you basically just held in your head. But as synthetic AI-generated content floods every single inbox, Slack channel, and application portal, that question is no longer enough. The new, infinitely more valuable question is, can others trust that you truly know it? I mean, think about the massive friction of verification that decision makers are facing right now. If every single candidate can submit a flawless, AI-generated cover letter and a perfectly optimized strategy document, how on earth does a hiring manager actually filter for the truth? Well, they have to rely on the human equivalent of proof of work. They're looking for back-channel references, past industry relationships, and a demonstrable real-world history of execution. Without that verifiable trust, raw knowledge is really just cheap data floating in the void.
So how does this abstract shift translate into a practical blueprint for your future? It requires combining forces with the technology rather than fighting it. Let's break down this formula. Imagine an independent marketing consultant who's bidding on a massive enterprise contract. They use AI to instantly scrape the competitor landscape, analyze market data, and generate the baseline structure of their pitch. That is the raw intelligence component. Boom, it saves them a week of grunt work. But here's the thing, they don't win the contract because their slide deck is pretty. They win the contract because they pair that AI speed with their proven expertise in the industry. They win it because of their verified achievements, like the 3 other Fortune 500 companies they've already successfully scaled. And they win it because the client called a mutual connection and actually confirmed their authentic reputation. You use the machine for speed and baseline knowledge, absolutely, but you layer it with your undeniable, trackable human achievements. That fusion is exactly what equals the next generation career.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that, at its core, this entire paradigm shift really just comes down to the most basic economic principles of supply and demand. Think about what happened to the global ice trade in the early 20th century. Right before the invention of the mechanical freezer, ice was a precious, heavily guarded commodity. It was harvested from frozen lakes and literally shipped across the world. But once the freezer was invented, ice became instantly abundant, cheap, and ubiquitous. The business model of simply supplying ice just collapsed. And because of AI, basic knowledge is going through the exact same transformation. It is wildly abundant, incredibly cheap, and instantly accessible. But in a world completely flooded with instant, synthetic content, true, verified human trust is moving in the exact opposite direction. It's becoming increasingly scarce. And in the professional landscape of tomorrow, verifiable trust is unequivocally the new gold standard.
Which brings us to a fundamental truth from our source material, and scarcity creates value. This isn't just some abstract economic theory. This is literally the foundation of your future earning potential. When you possess something scarce, your value in the marketplace absolutely skyrockets. Think about what this means for your job security and your trajectory into leadership. Companies are not going to pay a premium for someone who simply knows how to write a good prompt. They will, however, pay a massive premium and reserve their absolute highest leadership roles for individuals who have an unshakable track record of navigating complex human dynamics, holding risk, and delivering real-world results. The next generation of highly compensated careers won't be built on how much data you can memorize or process. They are going to be built entirely on this scarcity. They will be built on verifiable credibility.
So, we have officially moved from an era of hoarding knowledge to an era of proving character. The technical skills that got you here are essential, for sure, but they're no longer the differentiator. They're just the baseline. I want to leave you with this provocative final thought directly from the text we've been analyzing today. Will credibility become the most valuable professional asset in the AI era? Based on the economic shifts we've just unpacked, that transition isn't just coming, it is already well underway. Take some time today to genuinely reflect on your own professional positioning. Are you simply competing on a commodity like raw knowledge, or are you actively building unshakable credibility? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep building that trust.